Welcome to Unit 8, Lesson 1, where we will be learning about the three measures of center, the mean, median, and mode of a data set. Let's take a moment to define each of these measures of center. The mean, also known as the average, is the measure of center found by adding up all your data values and dividing by however many data values there were. The median, also known as the middle, is found by arranging all of the data in numerical order and determining the middle data value. If there happen to be two data values in the middle, you're going to find the average of those two numbers by adding them up and dividing by 2. The mode is a measure of center that simply determines which data value repeats the most often. If no data value ever repeats, then the data set does not have a mode. If there is a tie for which data values repeat the most often, then you can have multiple modes called multimodal. We're going to take a look at one situation and calculate each of these three measures for that set of data. If I'm ever going to have to find the median and mode of a data set, I'd always like to arrange the data in numerical order. This data represents the height in inches of each of the players on the Chicago Bulls. To start things off, I'm going to look for the smallest number in this list, which looks like it's 75, and I'm going to copy that number down below. Now I'm going to look for the next smallest number. There are a couple of 76s, and I need to write down each one of them. Now I'm going to keep going in this order until I've highlighted all the numbers and rewritten them below in numerical order. Now that I have all the numbers written down in numerical order, it doesn't hurt to double check and make sure you have the right number of data values. I've counted each set, and each one has 16 data values, so I think I did a good job of keeping all my data. Now that's not necessarily going to help us with the mean, but it's definitely going to help us with the median and the mode. For the mean, we're going to put all of these numbers in a calculator, all added up, and since I counted that there were 16 data values, we're going to divide that result by 16. To save myself some space down here, because I can see all the numbers up above, to show my work, I just showed some of the numbers and then put that little dot 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 in the middle to show that I'm leaving some of the numbers out in this visual down here. So when I add up all those numbers, I get 1271 divided by 16, which gives me a mean of 79.4 inches. If you're curious, that's just a little bit over 6'7". Now let's move on to the median. Once you have your data in numerical order, there's a pretty easy trick to be able to find your median. We're just going to tally off one data value on each end until we get to the middle. Now I've tallied off 7 on each end, which is leaving us with 2 data values in the middle. If there were just one data value in the middle, that would be your median. But our median is somewhere between these two numbers. And the way you figure that out is by taking the two numbers, adding them up, and dividing by 2. Now since both of these numbers are 79, that average in between 79 and 79 is just going to be 79. But if we had something like 79 and 81, the middle would be 80. You're just figuring out what's in between the two numbers that were in the middle. So our median here is 79 inches, real similar to our mean. Now as far as the mode is concerned, the mode is the number that repeats most often, which is a lot easier to figure out when you're in numerical order. I can easily tell that there are 2 76s, but there are 3 77s. Now 79 also repeats, but there's only 2 of them. 80 repeats, but there's only 2. 82 repeats, but there's only 2. So these 3 77s mean that 77 repeats the most often, and that makes it the mode. 77 inches would be the mode. If there were a tie, we would just list all of the numbers tied for the lead. So let's say there was one more 76, then we would say the mode is both 76 and 77. But there's not, so it's just 77 for this problem. Now, as you see, the mean, median, and mode are all pretty close to each other, and there's not necessarily one of these numbers that's better than the other. Together, the three measurements give us a pretty good idea of what's typical for the data set, what's normal, what's kind of the middle average number. So for this example, we realize that about 6'7" is the typical height of a Bulls player, which could then be extended on to start thinking about what's the average height of an NBA player in general. This was a pretty straightforward lesson. Just remember, the mean is the average, which you find by adding everything up and dividing by however many data values there are. The median is the middle number, so you just have to figure out which number is in the middle when you're arranged in numerical order, and then the mode is whatever data value repeats the most often. If you came away with anything else in this lesson, write that down now. Otherwise, we'll see you next time.